Are Hobgoblin Cutthroats any good in past 6.1.2? See, they were recently buffed, and the buff may not look like it matters, unless you've played the faction back in the day where you very much understand how big a deal this quietly is. Let's go over the basic Hobgoblin frontline. No, they're not as sexy as the Chaos Dwarfs with their manly beards and sick armor, but let's say it all together. No unit cap! Yay! Recruited for 400 gold and 100 upkeep, an ultra this unit arrives at the unusual entity count of 140. That's more than 120, but it's not skink, cohort, or clanret level, or goblin level. Health is 8,120 between them. Armor is 25, with basic shields blocking 35% of small arms fire from the front. Leadership is 45, so troll level, but this is where we see the other side of the contempt mechanic, malign authority. Within 55 meters of a unit with contempt, this unit's leadership gets a +8 bonus. That's already leadership 53, which is a lot more decent, especially when you expect hard-as-nails Chaos Dwarf Overseers in the mix. Speed 35 and charge speed 41 are a lot more nimble than Chaos Dwarf Infantry, but they're still infantry. Melee attack 32 is... okay, it was 28 for the longest time. 32 is on par with Empire Swordsman. Remember, there are 140 entities too. This melee attack number is by definition a decent number, a number on par with drilled Empire State troops, at least now. Attack interval is the standard 4, which is to say not the slightly slower pace of Chaos Dwarf Warriors, and there is no melee splash damage. Melee defense remains 28, but the faction has lots of defensive units. This one didn't need to be, at least in the start. Weapon strength is also 28, split base 21, and armor piercing 7 just like Empire Swordsman. Charge bonus is 15, and mass is 90. Thinking about it for a moment, charge bonus 15, which they didn't change, was supposed to be paired with melee attack 28. The fact it remains 15 makes for a very decent mixture. Besides malign authority, this unit can hide in forest and benefits from the backstabber passive. And what does this do? If hit points are over 50% for the unit, which will not be true in a lot of long and difficult battles, the Cutthroats will do plus 30% base weapon damage. That means it applies to the 21 per hit, not the 7 AP per hit. It's still a substantial damage boost. What's an easy comparison? Orc boys are weapon strength 34, split base 26, and AP 8. Hobgoblins will do slightly less melee damage than Orc boys stock at 140 entities, less health, and slightly less cost, as long as that health is over 50%. It's not that these are super goblins, but if you're fighting lower armored enemies, this is quite a bit more offensive output than you're going to get out of Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Not as much as from Infernal Guard, mind you, but it's still something. In the redline skills, at 3 pips, Fervent Fodder raises leadership by +6 and melee defense by +6. What are the biggest weaknesses of the unit straight out of the labor camps? Leadership and melee defense. What does this skill address? Leadership and melee defense. That's why the melee attack, which would remain untouched either way, is so important as new level of 32 stock. At rank 7, Lucky Lackeys, by definition lasting this long means you must be lucky. Grant speed plus 10%, melee attack plus 5, and ward save 10% just for good measure, which is kind of ridiculous. It's still a swifter unit than many, but magical attack is no help penetrating ward save. In the tech tree, one of the very earliest techs you can get is Stronghold Syndrome. Yes, this is meant to sound like Stockholm Syndrome. Grants upkeep minus 10% and melee attack plus 4. So it's in campaign you were expected to make up for the 4 less melee attack. So in effect, in a few turns of campaign, you're +8 melee attack above where Cutthroats were since the faction launched. Hobgoblin Quartermasters provide +50% unit experience, so you can reach Lucky Lackeys faster. Leadership +6, and melee defense +4. Already that means a rank 0 Cutthroat unit could enter combat with melee attack 36 and melee defense 38, with leadership 57 and leadership 65 if within malign authority range. At rank 0, other tech tree benefits are broader to the faction and not specific to this unit. There are no Hellforge upgrades for the Hobgoblins. So how do we use the Hobgoblin Cutthroats? It bears pointing out that this unit does not inflict poison, it does not inflict flaming attack, it does not have stock, it does not have Vanguard deployment, and except in one particular circumstance, what you see is really what you get. That circumstance is a gorgeous Backstabber Hobgoblin stack, which cranks up combat stats to pretty insane levels, but that's 1 army maximum per faction. You cannot count on this, so I'm going over the rest, quote-unquote. Cutthroats are essentially counters to other factions' trash, and blockers for their medium-strength units. They will utterly annihilate weak missile units if they can make contact. And char speed 41 means this is not actually out of the question. They are affordable in a faction with very expensive units that are also hobbled by unit caps. The 140 entities isn't important so much because of how it compares to other factions, but because of how it compares to Chaos Dwarf infantry, which is 100 for melee, 80 for missile, if on ultra of course. They are there to clog up the works and make it difficult for the enemy to just stroll to your good stuff. But let's be real, their mission is to take arrows you would rather not land on other units, to die in melee in preference to your better stuff, and to take losses you hope to heal from over the end turn or just merge units. All this amounts to one thing I can put like this: buying time. The reason it's so good that they have a boost to melee attack is mainly so that they aren't officially losing as many fights, so they're holding up in leadership longer. Just because content units won't waver from Hobgoblin's fleeing doesn't mean it's a good thing. More importantly, in a properly functioning army, you have damage-dealing forces, like artillery, that needs time to operate. In an improperly functioning army, you're relying on Cutthroats to last long enough to salvage the battle or at least inflict even a few more casualties before the army is routed or destroyed entirely. Not ideal. Cutthroats are your tool for setting the table. Wrath is best served by someone else. But they're still thoroughly overperforming lower tier, lower armor enemy infantry and even cavalry at an insane price point. No, they're not Black Ark Corsairs with dual swords mowing the stuff down, but they're not that far off. Again, at a price point and an entity count that favors your side a lot. So, you exploit matchups and sandpaper the enemy down to a more manageable level. Just remember, the faction is designed for you to use something, anything, to inflict shock damage on the foe before your hobgoblins break. Budget wargaming only goes so far. Take care, and have fun cutting throats, purses, and other stuff better left unsaid.